Hello. We convened our meeting a few minutes ago before our closed session, so we are at the point now for the Pledge of Allegiance. So everybody please rise and join the board in the pledge. Tonight we have a host of special recognitions of our All-State music students. So I would like to, let's see. The Board of Education is pleased to recognize our exceptional group of Parkway students who earned All-State Music Honors during the All-State Festival concert at the Missouri Music Educators Association Conference in late January. I'd like to invite Jeff Lackey, Coordinator of Fine Arts, to the podium for the recognition of our students.
Good evening, President Beth Bolton, Vice President Tim Applebaum, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Marty, Ms. Stover, and all others present this evening. It is with great honor that I introduce 19 extremely talented and dedicated Parkway High School musicians who have achieved the distinction of having been selected to perform in the 2018 Missouri All-State Band, Choir, and Orchestra. Auditions for these performing positions were serious and competitive. These students first had to be selected to perform at their local ensembles prior to auditioning for All-State. Their auditions had to be performed perfectly with technical skills and understanding that made them stand out from hundreds of other students from across the state competing for the very same seats. Naturally, they were on to represent Parkway with their respective concerts, which were performed at the Missouri Music Educators Conference before an appreciative audience of music educators, administrators, and parents. These Parkway students have demonstrated the very highest level of musical competency and have shown a personal commitment to artistic excellence. I would like to thank their music teachers for motivating, nurturing, and guiding these students into the skilled and accomplished musicians they are today. And of course, I'd like to thank their parents for their continued support along the way and motivating them as we go. Now, I'd like to introduce our All-State music students by school to be recognized by the Parkway Board of Education and Dr. Marty. I would like to ask them to join their principal and music teachers that are present tonight for a photograph with their school following. As your name is called, please come forward. We'll begin with Central High. These students, as a side note, we have many students that have other commitments. As we've said, they have spent a lot of time with their skill and are performing in various concerts this evening. So I'd like to read their names, but some of these students will be absent. So singing for All-State Choir under the direction of Ben Silverman, we have, who is not present, alto Aletha Baston, also not present, tenor Dominic Dore. But present tonight, we have alto Ariana Stein. Also attending other concerts are all of the following students from our All-State Orchestra. So on bass, Colby Heimberger, piano, Hannah Lee, violin, Leah Liu, violin, April Moon. On flute, this was a full orchestra, so flute player under the direction of Doug Hoover and Matt Beasley, Jane Wang. Violin, Mary Zhu, and alternate violin, Ellie Yang. And those are our Central High All-State musicians. Going on to North High, our All-State Choir under the direction of Brian Reeves. Singing soprano, I have Mayor Aurora. And singing alto, Siley Kombacher. All-State Band under direction of Mark Lynn and Andrew LaRose, I have Anthony Kandelaroff on flute. Moving on to Parkway South High, our all-state choir students under the direction of Jonathan Owen, soprano Amanda Lehman, and singing bass Nathan Wren. All-state orchestra under the direction of Ed Simon, I have Lanaya Johansson. And for West High, we have All-State Band, who was not able to attend on oboe Gwen Allendorf, and also not able to attend an All-State Orchestra was Jason Wan for violin, but was able to attend All-State Choir under the direction of Eric Anthony and Brian Parrish, June Bain. Again, congratulations to all of our 2018 Parkway All-State Music students.
Thank you so much to our students, their families, and our Parkway staff for joining us this evening. Parents, you have outstanding children and should be very proud. We're honored to have you with us tonight. At this time, we're going to take a very brief break. We will resume the board meeting shortly. Thank you and good evening.
Well, I've been office for a week.
No, I'm going to talk to Bill. always say it's going to be a brief break, and then we take a little longer than we should. So excuse us for that. We're going to go on. We're at 6.0, additions, corrections, and modifications to the agenda. Addendum to the agenda, item 10.12, approval of personnel items. And now we're at citizen statement 7.0. I have received the sign-ups electronically, and I noticed that the first two people that have signed up, I have a feeling may be talking about personnel items that are personally identifiable, and that is not something that we put out in the open. So I'd like to ask these people who've signed up if they couldn't instead just provide the board with their written comments. You can make your comments in general without mentioning any individual position or person. Okay, great. Then I'd like to call on Stacy Reeves. Please come down to the microphone. Everyone is going to have 2 minutes to make their statement. That's fine. I think you probably understand it's a policy of the board that we don't discuss personnel items.
Sure, I just don't know where else our voice would be heard in an open forum like this.
Well,
so that's why we
personnel
came here.
items are not meant to be
Okay.
heard open. Okay.
My name's Stacy Reeves, and I have an 8th grader and 6th grader at Northeast Middle. I'm here tonight to show my support for person X in this district who has a position who is going to be interviewing beginning tomorrow. This person was hired on an interim basis last year when a person Y took a position elsewhere late in the year. I understand in many districts, when someone is hired on an interim basis, it's not unusual for that person to have to go through the entire hiring process. That's not the case in this district. Often, if not always, the interim is given the permanent position without having to go through the entire process. Many people were shocked to receive an email a few weeks ago stating the district's intention to not only open this position internally, but also externally due to feedback you gathered. I worry that your feedback doesn't reflect how the community feels about person X because it does not match the feedback I've gathered. Not one person I've talked to has said they're happy to see this person go. The person I speak of is approachable and easy to talk to. When the doors open to a building, during things like parent-teacher conferences and open house, this person's out in front of the building greeting people. At an event we held at one of the buildings in the district last month, this person went through the display with parents. As PTO Vice President, I've worked fairly closely with this person, and she's very easy to work with and open to our ideas. PTO started a homecoming tailgate barbecue this year, and not only did this person support the idea, she and her spouse spent that Saturday morning there with us. We suggested adding guest speakers to our meetings in order to increase our attendance. Not only was she supportive, she arranged the guest speakers. I think the transition to middle school is often harder for us parents than for the students. At least for me it was when my 8th grader started in 6th grade. I went from knowing everything that went on to knowing nothing. This person has addressed that concern by sending weekly email updates and monthly email newsletters about what's happening in one of your buildings. Not only is she interested in hearing what the parents have to say, she's formed a principal's action team of 40 students who she meets with every 3 weeks. She's also adjusted family groups to allow for different topics, and the students chose family groups based on their interests.
Thank you. And now I'm going to call Sarah Epstein. I think you need to move a little closer to the microphone or move the microphone a little closer
No,
to you.
this is good. Sorry. Thank you. In addition, Person X has been working on building relationships with staff. Person X has had lunch with each team and others in the building to build those relationships and be available to them if they have any items they wanted to discuss. Person X has shown commitment to the community in general. In addition to homecoming, Person X has had her entire family involved in our 6th grade day of service. Members of her family led a session, were there during the day to create PowerPoints of the children in the that took place in the different activities, and that information was available to the students upon their return to school. All of that in just 3 months since school has started. We would love to see Person X stay. We think they have demonstrated that she is the best person to help our students become capable, curious, confident, and caring people that we want them to be. We also have a letter signed by many of the staff members, and this should not be taken as the definitive list of the staff, as these signatures were gathered in just a few short hours. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ladies, and you'll
we give you
receive
that
a
letter?
reply in writing. We've got the addresses now. We've got it written, so we're good. Thank you, though. Philip Zara.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Philip Zara.
Sir, you need to either move the microphone towards you or stand closer to it.
Okay. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Philip Zara. Some board members may know me already. I've spoken with and emailed Dr. Marty on many occasions. I've also chatted with Mr. Scortino at a Project Parkway meeting, and I actually know Sudhir, who doesn't appear to be here tonight, from the St. Louis Tableau Users Group. Tableau is a data visualization tool that Parkway is now using, I believe. My daughter is a sophomore at West High, and my son is in 7th grade at West Middle. I'm here briefly to speak about the demographic survey and the $110 million bond offering. At last month's meeting, Paul Tandy discussed the demographic survey, and I'm sorry if I missed the Project Parkway meeting on the 12th, so I'm not sure if this is the venue to discuss that bond offering. My profession is a performance analyst. I analyze data for insights, kind of like Sudhir does. In New York, I audited investment performance of large investment funds. Now I analyze banks to assess whether they are complying with regulations. I got 29 seconds left. I'm an advocate for the taxpayers of town and country. I believe that the Parkway District has changed so much over the last 40 years that it must evolve. I have shared my feedback with teachers about facilities, grade inflation, STEM, including, I've shared my feedback with principals and teachers, and they, including Ann Miller, Schmerold, and
No, you can't, but if you've got something in writing, we'd be sure to share it.
Essentially, I'm saying the demographic study
Do you have it in writing, Mr. Zara? Because,
clearly shows that there's
sir, I'm sorry, but we've got procedures. Great.
increase in value.
You can give it to Mrs. Stover.
Over the last generation and the use of the funds.
Sir, I don't wish to be rude, but thank you. John Carr, please. No, not anymore, because I've got it on a written form, and we've got your address, so you're good. Thank you.
Dr. Marty, board, 5 or 10 years ago when my children were in school, any discussion of school safety was pretty fruitless. I'm going to assume that with the recent disaster down in Florida, it's a reminder to the board that this is a subject that you need to revisit frequently and take seriously. There are 2 resources that I would like the board to look into and to take into consideration. One is the FASTER program, which stands for Faculty Administrator Safety Training and Emergency Response. Several schools in Ohio and Colorado have implemented this training, and that includes mindset, active response, and trauma first aid. The other is, it's called National School Shield. It's a program sponsored by the NRA, and what they do, and I don't think they charge for this, is they help you evaluate security, infrastructure, technology, personnel, training, and your safety protocols. So I'm not here to elaborate on anything. I just want to ask the board to look into these, hopefully in closed session, because obviously it's not a subject that the public needs to know a whole lot about.
Thank you, sir. You'll receive a response in writing. 8.0, approval of agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of Education scheduled for February 21st, 2018? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Communications, 9.01, calendar of meetings. The next regular board meeting will take place on Wednesday, March 14th, 2018, beginning at 7 p.m. at Central Middle School. An anticipated closed session will be held at 6 o'clock p.m. Board candidate filing. The filing ended on January, back in January. Individuals who have filed for the board seat are in order of filing, and if you're here, please stand. Jeannie Ames, Kevin Seltzer, Jonathan Taylor, Matthew Schindler, Amy Bonnet. Great, thank you. The election will be held April 3rd, 2018, and I'd like to remind everybody, y'all can sit down, thank you, that our candidate forum hosted here in Parkway, but led by the League of Women Voters, will take place in this very room on March 12th at 7 p.m., and I encourage all interested citizens to attend. You have the opportunity to ask questions on index cards, and I think it's also live streamed, and we accept some questions electronically, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so informed voters are doing the best job they can, so it's up to the voters to be informed. 9.0, board liaison reports. We'll start at this end tonight.
Okay. Thank you. In the last month, I had the pleasure of attending the High School Heroes training session. This was a session of, I think, sophomores, about 100 of them from all across the district that spent the better part of a day in training, learning how to teach tobacco and marijuana prevention lessons to middle schoolers. And it was interesting to sit in the room and hear some of the training that they were hearing and observe their attention to what's going on and their enthusiasm for going back to the middle schoolers and teaching what they learned and trying to be a great example for the younger kids. Also attended the West Region Art Show and West Musical and just underscored how great our arts and entertainment programs are here in Parkway. And I also got to spend a little bit of time at the West High Day of Service. And that was, it's always a great event. This year it modeled, I think, Central's Day of Service, and they went, a number of groups went out to the different parts of the community and spent time serving others, serving different groups in our community, and also held the Special Olympics at West. And it was just a great day, a great feel-good day in and out of the building, being a little bit closer to our community and serving others. So it's always neat to see.
Thank you.
I had a lot of fun this past month. I was lucky enough to attend the West Regional Art Show, and I always think it's amazing to see all the art from those young ones. It's phenomenal what they can do. I can't draw worth a darn, but they did a really good job. So it was really nice to walk through there and see all of their artwork. I also attended the vocal concert at Logan College, and that was just amazing. These students have voices just you would not believe. I know I say this to Jeff Lackey all the time, but one of the most fun things I get to go to are these performances, and I think that the talent in those rooms is just amazing. If I could sing and dance like these kids, I'd be rich. I also attended the fourth grade strings concert, and that was fantastic as well. I don't even know how they can read the music, but they do a great job, and it seems to be growing. I mean, I personally, when my kids were doing that, I think that there's more and more students every year. So there's a lot, yeah, and they do a great job, and it's never long enough. Jeff, I need it longer. I need to hear more. So they're never long enough. Just when you're really getting into it, it ends.
Another great thing that I got to attend was the Spirit of Excellence, and that was a real, it's an eye-opening event just to see the number of students and how they're succeeding. They're just the way that they are so, I don't even know what the right word would be, but the energy of these kids. I got to meet this young student. His name's Ian Banks, right? Ian is how old?
5th grade.
5th grade. So he comes backstage. We're backstage waiting for him to go out, and he'll be singing the national anthem. And you wouldn't think that he's just a little 5th grader. He came up to us and professionally was shaking our hands, introducing himself. I thought he was a 30-year-old guy in a little body. But he was amazing. He calmly went out there. This was a packed place. And he sang and was looking around and just did a phenomenal job. And I was so proud of him. I'm not even his mother, and I had tears in my eyes thinking, oh my gosh, this kid is so good. So kudos to Ian Banks for being so brave and getting out there and singing. We also had these 2 amazing master ceremonies. We had Jordan Perry and Trey, he goes by Trey Moore. They did a great job. These high school kids that are just announcing this entire program. And Jordan, I got to sit next to her mother, so I got to know a little bit more about Jordan. She applied at 10 colleges, and that night alone, she had already been accepted at 7 of them. And I believe, Dr. Marty, you heard that there was another one? Vanderbilt. She has choices, and she's not sure where she wants to go yet. I think she's leaning towards Florida because of the weather, but she's just an amazing, amazing student, and it touches you when you see the success that they're heading toward. I guess that's it. Thanks.
You've been busy.
I'll mention 2 meetings that I had the opportunity to go to. The first one I'll mention is the Student Services Subcommittee meeting. Sudhir and I attended that meeting. And what we really talked about was some of the work that Parkway's doing around both reducing disparities in discipline and also, more importantly, I think, or in this case, we talked more about some efforts around closing the achievement gap that we have between our African American students and our highest performing students. Efforts are around enrollment in AP classes, gifted programs, challenge classes, honors classes, and whether or not we're really identifying those kids that have the potential, and if we're doing a good job of getting them enrolled in those programs so they can kind of live up to their full potential. I think we spent the most time talking a bit about our social justice training program, which is whole school training, for those that don't know about it. 13 of our schools have gone through it at this point, and really the goal is to help the adults in the schools understand how they can work with kids and how the way that they interact with kids can either help kids achieve more or hurt kids in their achievement. And I think it's important we recognize that all of these efforts are really pointed at student achievement and getting all of our kids to reach their highest potential. We're working, Sudhir and I asked for some data around how have the schools that have gone through this training, what's changed in terms of their discipline and their test scores. And we'll get that data, but anecdotally, we do know that at Carmen Trails, test scores went up and discipline went down. So I think that's really important. We all kind of remember that this is really focused on kids achieving. The other thing I'll mention is just the Project Parkway meeting last week that I know we were all at. I had the pleasure of sitting with the Early Childhood Center staff, and in this case, all the women there. I think it's just really neat how committed and dedicated they are to the littlest people in our district and how they really want to work harder and do more to provide more access to those services to more families and make sure everyone can be part of them. So I'll leave it at those 2. Thank you.
I'll mention the things that haven't already been addressed. I had the pleasure of attending the symphony with some of our music educators who had auditioned for performing at the St. Louis Symphony. So with our young students, it was just really a privilege to see our own teachers there on the stage with the symphonic orchestra, one of the premier places in the world to be right now in symphonic music. The other thing that I attended along with Mrs. Feldman and Dr. Marty was our mayors and city administrators meeting. This is my first time attending that meeting, and it was a wonderful opportunity to meet the mayors and the city managers of all of our municipalities within the Parkway School District to talk about a variety of development issues, malls, just a variety of different parking issues, signage issues, whatever the case may be. So I very much enjoyed attending that meeting. We also, as all the board members, attended with Pattonville and Rockwood our legislative breakfast, which was hosted in the Pattonville School District this year. And we met in a large forum with federal and state legislators to talk about some of the primary issues that are touching public education these days, including some very sensitive topics. So we always welcome that, and Parkway will be hosting that breakfast next year. The other thing that I attended was the Communications Advisory Committee meeting, which is, again, a very important meeting to attend quarterly, where we meet with individuals who are professionals in the communications field to help us deal with Parkway issues and communications and some of our messages that we want to be able to get out in a positive way about the district, and deals with some challenges as well. And then we also attended with Mr. Todd and Dr. Sortino the TLA subcommittee meeting. We continue to pour through policies related to teaching, learning, and accountability. So we're getting through them. We still have our March deadline, I believe. We're making progress, but it is an arduous task. So, but it's very important. Some of the policies have had to be parceled out to other professional areas who are expert in the field, so that we can get their advice on how to structure these policies based on some new laws that are taking place and some nuances that Parkway has. So we will continue to work forward in developing those policies more as a whole board together. That's it.
Great. Well, I think everything that I've been to has been mentioned. So I will say that Debbie talked about the mayor's meeting, and we have 9 municipalities. Parkway is in 9 different municipalities. That's 9 mayors, 9 city councils, and 9 city administrators. So Dr. Marty has worked really hard to develop relationships with these professionals that we have to work hand in hand with. And I think it's really beneficial to the students of Parkway that we continue to work on maintaining these relationships. So thank you for doing that. Let's see. I think we are at, I think I turned the page too fast. Let's see. Yeah, sorry, I turned way too many pages. Okay, great. Sorry about that. We're at 9.03 Board Subcommittee Reports. The Project Parkway Steering Committee was held on Wednesday, January 31st, 2018. The Student Services Subcommittee that Christy talked about was held on Thursday, January 25th. The TLA Subcommittee meeting that was spoken about was held on Thursday, February 8th. And the Project Parkway Quarterly meeting was held last Monday night, February 12th. It was very well attended. Thanks to the principals and others for getting so many citizens there to give us their thoughts on proposed construction projects for the upcoming bond work. 9.04 upcoming subcommittee meetings. The HR Finance Subcommittee meeting will meet at 4:30 p.m. on Thursday, March 8th at Parkway's Administrative Center. Details of the meetings will be posted within 24 hours of the anticipated meetings. 10.0 action items. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in the February 21st, 2018 board materials?
Second.
Is there anything that needs to be pulled to action or closed? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? See, that's why we're a little confused. Any abstentions?
I would like to abstain from 10.28.
Great. Okay, with the exception of 10.28, everything carries 6-0, and for 10.28 carries 5-0. 11.0 action items. 11.01, hearing on the adoption of the 2019-20 calendar. The start date this year, in 2019, will be more than 10 days prior to the first Monday in September. I'd like to call Amy Joyce, the Chief Human Resources Officer.
Good evening, President Feldman, members of the Board of Education. This is a second reading of the proposed 2019 and 2020 calendar, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
I'll propose one question. Was the spring break for Parkway coordinated with any of the other school districts that we work closely with here, like Rockwood, for example?
Yes, this
Okay,
calendar is the same as Rockwood.
Okay, so these two districts will have their spring breaks coinciding for this
Yes.
particular year? Thank you.
Any other questions? This is going to be the fastest hearing in the history of Parkway. Awesome. Okay. May I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve the 2019-2020 academic calendar as presented in the February 21st, 2018 board meeting materials?
So moved.
Roll call, please, Nikki.
Mrs. Applebaum?
Yes.
Ms. Davis? Yes. Mrs. Hopper?
Yes.
Dr. Fiorentino? Yes. Mr. Todd? Yes. Mrs. Feldman?
Yes, thank you. The motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
We have no policy review tonight, and we do have one report, 13.01, Career and Technical Education Program Evaluation. I'd like to call Amy Belding, Coordinator of Career and Technical Education, Choice Programs in Modern and Classical Languages. Amy, does that fit on your name tag?
It's like lots of acronyms, but people don't really know what they are. So I just have to tell them. I'm going to fix this so I learned from my predecessors on the microphone. Okay, can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. So good evening, Board of Education, President Feldman, Dr. Marty, Mrs. Stover. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I'm really excited to be able to share some of the amazing things that our CTE program has to offer and just what the experiences that our students are able to have through those pathways. So I'm going to start by talking about our Sweet and Savory Cooking Challenge. Just this past fall, we were able to form a partnership with our Family Consumer Science Department and Dan Flick and Marlene Pfeiffer, who work with our Department of Food Service. That partnership allowed us to create a student cooking challenge that spanned all 4 Parkway high schools. With that challenge, teachers held cooking challenges in their home high schools in which students competed head-to-head for a chance to plate a sweet and savory item for you all tonight. So I did hear that the food was really good. I had some as well, and we're very excited just to showcase who the winners are. We have the teachers here for the winning teams and also just recognize the students as well. Molly told me this was going to happen. There we go. Got it. Cool. If our FACS teachers who are here could come down, please. So for our sweet challenge, we actually had a cupcake, and the winning team for the cupcake was our South High team, and they had a Reese's Bite cupcake. So Evelyn Petty is here to accept that. If she can stand, come down. Give her a round of applause. And her students are listed here above. And then for our savory challenge, we went with a slider, and the winning group was from North High School, and it was a Hawaiian burger on some challah bread. It was amazing. And here to accept that award is Becky Bright and Kara Sussman from North High. So let's give them a round of applause. You guys can sit down. Thank you so much. I will be going actually to their schools next week to recognize the students since they weren't able to stay. They started after school prepping all their food at 2:30, and then to 7:30 is a little bit much to ask considering they have other stuff going on. So
I think it's important to note that Jeff Todd ate everything.
I didn't know if I was allowed to say that. Keith did tell me that, but well, that too. We actually had a couple other people like Jason Rooks helped out and Michael Bearlack. So thank you so much for participating in that. It was pretty awesome. I know Jeff's son.
You have a trophy for Jeff? Or?
If you would like a trophy, I'm happy to dig one up for you. We probably have somewhere in our FACS kitchen. And your son was one of the competitors from West High, so. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
He was in Park.
So, just thinking about our CTE programs, and really when we give our students the opportunity to pursue their passion and challenges like these, the sky is the limit. And last week you may have seen on KSDK News, a Central High 2008 graduate, CTE alumni, and Parkway Central FACS student, Brett Eisen, was featured on KSDK for his work in the Olympics. So I think we have a quick clip there.
A lot of moving parts here at the OBJ, and a lot of those parts are people behind the scenes. Folks who
So really kind of showcasing exactly what we're trying for in our CTE classes. Brett's teacher, Hillary Graybo, and Linda Trucker, I think Hillary was here earlier, but she may have gone home to her kids. Really just excited to see what our students are able to do, in our CTE classes and beyond. So tonight I'm here to talk about our CTE program. I'll start with a little bit of background, our current work, and then also go to our findings and recommendations based on our program evaluation. So maybe you guys are asking yourself, what the heck is CTE? You talked about all the acronyms on my name tag, so I kind of feel like it's appropriate to talk about what CTE is. This might have been your shop class, or your home economics room, or your computer class. That's what CTE used to be. But it looks a little bit different these days. Our students are working in areas and spaces that are helping prepare them for challenges in an ever-changing world. And career and technical education is comprised of 3 succinct areas: business, marketing, information technology, family and consumer sciences, and technology and engineering. Within each of these areas, we also have 4 career pathways. This slide's a little bit hard to see, but I'm going to tell you a story. Just this past fall, with Teaching, Learning, and Accountability team, I had an opportunity to go through a learning walk. I found myself in an elementary school, and in a 3rd grade classroom, up on a wall, there was a passion project. And this kid was trying to figure out binary code. Binary code. This kid was 9 years old. I was blown away. And it really got me thinking about, how do we really prepare students for jobs that don't exist or that aren't even out there yet? And so there's a guy by the name of Ed Hidalgo. He's the director of staffing at Qualcomm, which is a global communications firm. And he actually has a TED Talk exactly about this. And he poses the question of, how do we prepare students for these passions that they have? And his second pose that he has is really about, why are we not dedicating more time and more effort into helping students pursue that personal direction in that career pathway? So then I started thinking more about what he was saying, and so I'm like, who are these kids that are in our classroom? What are they called? What's their name? Well, they're called centennials, and they're current kindergartners through recent college graduates. And I also started thinking about, in 10 years, what is their world going to look like? And I can see them going into the Goodwill and picking up one of these and saying, I've got to get this for my mom. My mom used to have one of these, and can you believe it? She plugged it in the wall. Can you believe that? This is the oldest technology that our kids are going to know, and this is the newest iPhone. So think about that. Our students use their phones and their devices as a way to communicate with others and a way to express themselves, and it's our responsibility to meet those centennials where they're at. What implications does that have for our classroom? Well, it's time to abandon the notion that it's the same path to the finish line for every kid. That is gone. It's important to us to support feedback for these students and passion for where they're at. We want them to follow the story that they're meant to have, and we want to help our teachers to support them along that pathway, knowing that content is universally accessible for those students. So I've told you a little bit about our students. Now I want to tell you a little bit about career and technical education by statistics. CTE students are considered concentrators when they take 3.0 credits of CTE classes. When they take those classes and they complete them, they take a National Technical Skills Attainment Test this spring. We're prepping for those right now. That skills attainment test tells us who are college and career ready. 80% of CTE students are college and career ready based on that technical skills attainment test. In addition, our CTE concentrators have an average high school graduation rate of 93%. This tops the Missouri graduation rate, which is only 86%. Currently, there are 11 million students in CTE classes nationwide, and that's up from 7.4 million in the 2013-2014 school year. And I thought this question was really interesting as well. They asked recent high school dropouts, what would have actually kept you in the classroom? And what they said was 81% of the time that it was real world relevant learning experiences. And I'm like, this is us. This is CTE. This is what we do. Our CTE program evaluation was dedicated to that work, learning more about those relevant learning experiences and helping to make recommendations for the future of our students. Some of our
current work that is taking place in CTE is around relevant learning experiences. Transferring those experiences that they have in the classroom, like our cooking, both in and outside of the classroom. We have, obviously, you can see a lot of things that we're doing for relevant learning experiences. One I'd like to highlight is that over the last 2 years, we've instilled student-run coffee shops in all of our high schools. Those coffee shops are manned by students. They put up the product placement, they do the target market, they do the financing, the inventory, they use the square, they do everything. And that's a real example of the content that they're learning in that business and career pathway, putting it to work right there in the high school. It's pretty good if you ever get a chance to go to those in a high school. College and career readiness is also something that is high on the CTE priority list. We have a number of dual articulation agreements with post-secondary institutions, and we continue to grow that list as we move through our courses and can form those partnerships. It's really important that we think about our industry alignment as well. So partnerships like the Boeing Explore program or MasterCard for Hour of Code are things that we continue to cultivate in our CTE programs as well. Some of our findings from our CTE research, we started back in May with a teacher work group that comprised all the different schools that we focus on, our high school and middle schools, and these are our 5 areas of topic study. Relevant learning experiences, college and career readiness, CTE scope and sequence, personalized learning and competency-based learning, and then finally resources. As you can see, for real-world relevant learning experiences, we have a lot. Again, that's what we're about in CTE. That's what we really focus on. One area, though, that we would actually like to grow is that red area, and that's 43% of students say that they have choice about what they learn in their CTE classes. And to me, this doesn't really come as a surprise, knowing that personalized learning is something that we're focusing on. So an example of that would be computer science. We just received a grant for $20,000 this year and $20,000 next year to expand our computer science programs in our middle schools. And what that's going to do is help provide teachers with resources for students, for instance, if they come in with, how to code with Java, how to code with HTML, how to code with Python. The teacher needs resources to help meet those students where they're at. And so that will offer them choice in their pathway within that classroom, as opposed to an additive model, a whole nother class, a whole nother schedule. In terms of our college and career readiness, teachers do believe that they're preparing their students for college and, and beyond with those competencies. And students are learning classes 83% of the time that they can transfer to other areas, which we thought was very positive. And just so you know, all those are in the booklet too, so as I'm going quick, those are there as well. Scope and sequence. We're pretty much about 2/3 across the board on this. What that is referring to is to what degree in 6th through 12th grade and beyond do our students feel that they're going through a fluid pathway in their college and career course model. And so although 2/3 is good, we can tick that up. We can get better at that. So next year, knowing that our middle schools are going to a semester model, that means that our high school and our middle school teachers in elective courses will be on the same professional development days, which I'm elated about, because then you don't have to plan dual things, and it really just helps those conversations. Some of our teachers have already started doing that in some of our professional learning communities, which have really actually delivered great results in looking at student data and helped making changes based on their needs. In our personalized and competency area, again, we're about 75% across the board with understanding competencies. Teachers feel very self-efficacious about the competencies. We're also helping teachers differentiate that with their students in terms of knowledge, skills, and dispositions. And that really changes the conversation that our teachers have with our students about, is it content that you didn't know? Is it a disposition? So is it, a grit or perseverance or empathy, or is it a skill that they need? Was it actually the skill? They didn't know how to ice the cupcake, or they didn't know how to do this certain skill on Excel or things like that. And then finally, in our resources, our parents and our students feel that our resources are very, very strong. Although our teachers, we've got to dip down to 33%, they don't feel that we're very industry aligned. And I think part of that is really kind of mitigating the financial responsibility that we have here in Parkway, and as educators, to provide the equipment to students, but then also making sure that it's equitable across buildings. So that is a team that we're going to be leading, starting up, and that's in our recommendations as well, to look at what resources that we have, how do we refresh those resources, and then how do we offer choice and voice to students when they want to select a certain pathway if we don't have that resource in their building. The last area that we collected data was an industry roundtable, and that was this past October. We had 22 industry partners that are part of our advisory board. We hosted it at Spark, and it was led by some of our CTE teachers, first with a group discussion around different topics in CTE, and then in small group discussions within our pathways. And our industry partners told us things like data analytics and data management are a big thing for your kids. Having a growth mindset is really important. There's no such thing as soft skills, all right? Those are the skills, okay? And that just really actually reinforced as well from our findings that those are the things that we do really need to be focusing on in our CTE programs. So in terms of recommendation, the big question that our team is asking ourselves is, what does a CTE student need to succeed? Well, they need a personal path to learning, they need curriculum that aligns with that personal path, and then they need experiences to be able to practice those skills and knowledge and dispositions. So our recommendations fall right in line with that. Aligning our curriculum, 612, is going to help us to provide those personal career pathways, and then also outlining the competencies and providing choice to students within those pathways so that they can discover, explore, and go deep if they really want to in a certain career pathway. In addition, I talked about improving the sequence between high school and middle school and personalized learning to meet student needs. That's going to require professional development for our teachers, and we're committed to being able to do that because we know we have dedicated teachers that are excited about this. Also increasing choice and relevance. Something else that came out of our program evaluation that we're recommending is looking at blended learning models, virtual learning models, and how that parlays over to CTE courses. So what courses would be a good fit for that? What courses do students want to take in a virtual or blended setting? And then how we can help students to work at their own pace or test up. So if they're at a certain level and they're in a class and they finish those competencies, what does it look like them to go to the next area without a whole new class change, et cetera? And then finally, with resources, exploring flexible workspaces. That's something that is really a new thing for us, and thinking about how we use our resources appropriately, and more hands-on projects, just increasing that from that 2/3 number. This is us. We're CTE. We're the elective people that students want to come into our classes. They're excited when they see our teachers' names on their schedule. They're the teacher that they go to in the middle to show them the cool socks that they made for their business venture, or that helped them stay after school at Fern Ridge with the Raspberry Pi Club, or who took them to Future Business Leaders or DECA competition at the mall, or traveled with them to Springfield or New York. And I would also like to highlight this last 2 years, our middle school teacher of the year and high school teacher of the year did happen to be CTE teachers, which we're very proud of. I'll end with this. Just this past couple months, I saw the movie The Greatest Showman with my daughter. Knew nothing about it. Story of P.T. Barnum, legendary circus man. And when I left the movie, I laughed to myself and I said, he's a CTE kid. He totally is. He is the sort of kid that takes risk, that wants to do something different. He doesn't want to look like anybody else. He wants to make his mark. He wants to explore passion and personal direction, and he's the sort of kids that we're seeing in our classroom. So we're excited to welcome those kids in our classroom. We're so excited. I'm so excited to be a part of a team of teachers that are really passionate about this work, and I am thankful for your support as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Amy? Anna?
I have one question.
Sure.
You're 43%. You said that one that you think could be better.
Yeah.
How can it be better?
Well, I think part of it is so I'll use a computer science, for example. So now we have computer science in our middle school. We're piloting at 2 of our middle schools, and we're going to bring it to all the middle schools next year. So what that means for the high school is that in an intro to computer science class, you may have a teacher that always taught HTML, and then, for instance, you have a kid that already knows HTML. So the teacher then needs to have a resource to be able to say, okay, so how do you want to learn to code? What did you think about HTML? Do you like JavaScript better? Or the same thing could be said for, an engineering class. If a kid's in the Boeing Exploring program and they come in and the teacher has a set curriculum, we need to kind of massage our curriculum a little bit so that there are those flexible pathways. We'll still have our guaranteed curriculum, but we do need to look at it through a personalized setting, and I believe that that's where competencies come in, because then you've got students on different progressions of those competencies.
Good question. Just looking for your opinion, I guess. So I'm seeing more and more out there that, kind of nationally, the standard has been like, we want bachelor's degrees. Like, everyone's going to get a bachelor's degree. Good question. But I'm starting to see publications saying that's not where the jobs are, and that the jobs are really come from a more technical education. So I'm just, do you believe that to be true? And kind of just, sorry, that's perhaps a loaded question.
It kind of is, but that's okay.
Given this particular topic and what you lead, your thoughts on that?
So I think that is a really good question, and I think there's like two schools of thought about that. First of all, I think you have to know where your student is on their journey. So what are they really passionate about? So like there's this analogy, if you see like two guys and like they're both building these buildings, and one of them you go over and he's like, I'm just laying bricks for this building, and then the other one's like, I'm building the house of God. Like, they're on different places in their journey of passion. So I think trying to discover where that is going to dictate the answer to your question. Certainly, in Missouri, specifically in St. Louis, we're seeing a rise in need for manufacturing jobs. We're also seeing tech companies start up where coding is a thing, and we know like 86% of students are going to need that, but what type of coding? There's different levels of that. So some coding need like a 2-year degree, and it's more automated stuff. And some people are like doing the data analytics side of that to say, oh, I'm going to look at this algorithm and I'm going to make it better. So that might require a 4-year degree. So it really just depends. And I know that's probably a political answer, but
That's fair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Could I just, this is, Amy doesn't know this even, but today, and this will be on the news, I think, there was covered today, I was part of a recognition, the county executive was awarded today, I think the 5th county in the country, being St. Louis County as a workforce-ready county. And what that means is there's a number of competencies, and a team came in. And I was invited to attend today through St. Louis Community College because of our CT program and some of the stats that they had.
Wow.
So part of the evaluation, Amy, can be, so there I was with Jeff Pittman from St. Louis Community College and county executive. And I think it says a lot about the work we're doing. And there was a couple other school districts there, but we were the biggest. And so I'm really proud that we were recognized for being a contributor to that work.
Yay, thank you. Cool.
Thank you for bringing our FACS teachers and students to supply dinner for the school board tonight. We appreciate it very much. And I would also like to say that next time you present, we're going to put you on way at the very end because you bring so much passion and exuberance every time you talk to us that if you're at the very end, you'll be sure to keep our attention.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We are trying to give a little more enthusiasm.
Thank you so much. I feel very supported by our team, so I really appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Amy. Let's see, work session tonight, there is none. 15.0, call for special meeting. May I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education call for a special meeting on February 28th, 2018, beginning at 5 p.m. at Parkway Central Middle School for the purposes of holding a PNEA District Communications Lab.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. 16.0, next scheduled closed session. The next anticipated closed session will be held on Wednesday, March 14th at 6 p.m. at Parkway Central Middle School. Details of the closed session will be posted within 24 hours of the anticipated meeting. 17.0, recess. 18.0, we are going to go back into closed session. 19.0, may I have a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you all very much for coming tonight.